Hi everyone, Part ISM, welcome to part 13 of the Tamiya Honda Rc211v bike build. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to the channel, click the little bell notification, give us a thumbs up and leave a comment down below should you wish. I'll reply to every single one. And as always, all the products I show in these videos are linked in the description down below. There's a link to hit to the forum. A big long list of everything you see me use today is in there, so go over, have a look, click on it, and if there's anything missing, just ask and I'll add it later on. So, what are we going to do today? Well, we're continuing on from our exhausts. A lot of components need doing and assembling before other parts can be done. So this took me about a week to do in total. There's a lot of work to get to this stage, but when we finally get it all assembled at the end, it is basically there and we're done. So very happy to get to this stage. Yes, really happy to get to that stage. It's taken a lot of work to get there. And as you can see today, quite a bit to get through. So we've got some carbon work to do. We've got some painting to do. We've got a lot of assembly to do as well. But it's going to get us to a major milestone of the bike where we're literally left with a few steps left to do. So it's really good to get that far. So thanks everyone for watching and supporting. Like I said in the last video, there will be another bike build, 100%. And we'll add a bit more detail to the next one for sure. I'm going to have a look around, see what detail sets are available and pick my build. Won't be for a while. I want some time off with this being finished and Telford coming up and Christmas. Will it be before Christmas? Don't know. Might do another car build. We'll see. But let's get cracking with this today. And we're jumping straight in with some carbon fibre work. Okay, so we're straight in with decal work. We've got the exhaust carrier here. This has got two pieces of the pre-cut Studio 27 carbon to put on it. As per last time, we're hitting this straight up with the ultimate extra strong solution because we know that's where it's going to need to get it to set. You could use a hairdryer, of course. I like to use a solution. I feel there's more control. You've got a little bit more time to get it where you want it. So there's a fastener on there that needs putting in the right place. So try and get that as good as you can with your eye and then line it up with the panel line on the left. Once this piece is on, there's another piece to go down that longer piece heading down. And again, hit it with the extra strong. Just take your time. It's going to take a while to set, but using the extra strong does its job. And in the end, you end up with a beautiful looking piece of carbon fibre plastic effect. So just keep going around, working your way around, make sure it's positioned correct. Once you're happy, leave it to one side for 5-10 minutes. Don't let any of the decal solution pool up in droplets. There you go, I'm just lifting it to check. Once you're happy, keep hitting it until it starts to set, as we can see here. The decal solutions work well. There's links to these on the brush in the description down below the video. And we sell them on Ultimate Modern products as well. Not the brushes, just the solutions. Any soft bristle brush can do. I like the water pens. I feel like they do a really nice job of conforming all the carbon fibre and other decals too. So as you can see, two pieces on that piece. We've got one piece per side on the seat. I'm going to call it a seat carrier. Seat fairing. It's hard to tell what it's called. And as you see, there's the exhaust one we've just done off camera. So then we're left with a lot of carbon to do inside the front fairing too. So there we go. We've done one side of this. Exactly the same way. Hit it with the extra strong. Now, I'm not sure about this, but my references show it not to be carbon, but I'm pretty sure it's all carbon. When we look in the book in a minute, you'll see what I mean. So we're just testing the seat mount itself on the back, the seat fairing, make sure it fits and lines up, which it does. This is the part with just carbon before. It's all set beautifully now. Really looks the part. Absolutely superb. Decal Solutions doing a fantastic job on that. So very happy with that. That's come out really well. So while the Studio 27 carbon does need a bit of work, it is worth the time invested. Now we're going to mask off our hoses on our radiator. As you can see, we've got a little bit of a cocktail stick mounted one side. We need to mount those and spray them in the black that we sprayed last time. Now, another piece of carbon work. I was debating whether to do this or not. We've got an electronics cover in front of the fuel tank just here. On the bike it's carbon. I don't mind doing the carbon on this. I'm literally going to show it you for about 3 minutes when it's done, and then we're going to pop a fuel tank over the top and never see it again. We've also got the other part of the cooling hose to do as well. But first off, what we're going to do, this has been painted in UMP Black Primer. Then it was painted in LP5 Semi-Gloss Tamiya Black. We're going to mask off the actual fuel tank now and spray that in LP48 Sparkling Silver. Once that's dry, we'll come in and do our carbon decaling work over the top. So I've got some Azu 2mm tape here. We're just masking as close as we can using the tape. Once we've got it in where we want, we can mask up the edge and then fill in the rest with larger pieces of Tamiya tape until we're ready to paint. So we've got our LP32, the grey we used last time. I didn't realise that both ends of this were the same colour, so we're back in for a little bit of paint. We've also got our LP48 for our fuel tank as well. As you can see, I've still got my exhaust hot metals in the spray booth, in case we change your mind and want to add a bit more. But we've got the LP48 Sparkling Silver, thinned about 50-50 with the retarder Tamiya thinner. I'm just going to put a few light coats on. Now what I do notice as soon as this hits is I can see my fill mark on that tank where I filled the seam. So after it dried, I took it back, flattened it off again, gave it a good sand, gave it a good buff, and repainted it the same. So yeah, we're just going to spray the other side of this in this grey colour. Then once it's dry, we can mask it off and spray our rubberized hose, silicone hose. So a couple of light coats. It's grey paint, covers so well. Really impressed. Every time I use this paint, it still impresses me. Well worth a try if you've not used it yet. It's fast becoming my favourite paint. And yeah, it's a great colour as well. Almost absolutely spot on to the colour I was looking for. So very happy with that. So a couple of light coats of that, and that's all good. Now we put another second coat on this. Again, I'm going to take it back in a little bit. You won't really see any difference. There's no point me showing it. But if you look through the centre seam of the tank, you can see the fill line still. So I spotted this. The silver showed it really well. So I took it back with a 240 UMP sander, give it a buff, reprimed, resprayed, spot on. We've got our exhausts that were done in the last video. As you can see, we've got our heat staining on. We've got our decal on the back now as well. We've also got our HRC decal on the side of the carbon as well. That's looking the part now. Carbon underneath looks good. Not bad at all. We've got the exhausts test fitted on the bike for now, just to make sure everything fits. And they're looking good. Quite happy with the tones I've got there. They look really, really well. I'm just going to test fit the front piece as well. Just going to pop it in. They fit in really well, really precise fit. The Tamiya bike's just absolutely superb, fits all around, especially the newer ones, 2000 onwards. And quite happy with the effect I've got there. It looks really good. Really is what I was after, so really happy with that. So we're going to mask off for our rubber hoses now. Got the AZ tape again, it looks like the 2mm again. So we're just going to mask off as close as we can to the rubber, using our tweezers to get the tape right up to the edge. And then once it's been painted in rubber, we can come back and put our hose clamps on, the PE hose clamps we did a few videos back. And then we can really get this thing assembled. We've got a bit of major carbon work to do still. But all these little steps, they all add up to in the grand scheme of things. And it's time well invested, well spent. And it'll add a lot of detail to the finished build. Again, we've got the hose on the actual radiator itself. So pretty tricky to mask this one because you've got a few odd angles to get. And then you've got to mask off the radiator. So take your time. Just make sure it's all fully masked before you commit to paint. You don't want to get any black all over that lovely metal work you've already sprayed. And again, there we go. So there's all the major parts done. Now we're just going to mask the rest of the radiator with some Tamiya tape. And once we're happy, we can get some of that rubber black down. So there we go. That's all painted up now. I've sanded it back, repainted it, reprimed, repainted in a metal colour. We've fitted on this piece at the back, and now we are going to carbon that electronics cover at the front. I really wasn't too minds whether to bother, but I think it was time well invested because it does look good. It's just sadly we're not really going to see it in the finished build. Now, with that piece at the back I'm talking about, on this it's black, where it stops at the top. When you look at a Minolta bike, it's exactly the same, but when you go back through to the Repsol bike, you can see a demarcation between the carbon at the side, there you go, and then the painted section at the top. So that to me means the bottom half's carbon, the top's painted. So that's what we've done this time. On previous bikes, I've carboned the entire piece, but I thought on this one, we'll just use the Studio 27 set, see what it looks like. And even on this one as well, you can see there's the demarcation. So we carboned where the bike reference is showing that it stops. This is our electronics cover we're going to do now. Obviously, we've not got all the detail of the electronics in, but I thought if we just popped a bit of carbon on, A, shows it being set down again, and B, shows what it looks like done. So we've got the Scale Motorsport carbon fibre again. It's the exact same one we used last time. What we're going to do, we're going to push it to the back so it's flush, and then we're going to get it to conform over the sides, and then we're going to follow, there's a line, an angle line where the tank changes angle. We're going to cut straight across that, get this piece fully set in place, and then we're going to piece each side right up to the piece we've cut straight with a knife and put our carbon on that way. I've tried doing this before in one piece. It is possible. It can take 4 or 5 attempts. It can waste almost an entire sheet of carbon. So I think sometimes to win the battle, it's easy to admit defeat. Just kind of think, yeah, I'll just piece it. No one's really going to notice it. You can't really see it. If you've got a nice straight edge, it does hide the seam of the carbon, and this pattern matches up really well. So again, we're hitting it with the normal solution. I'm letting the solution do its work, just lightly conforming it, pushing it around with the brush, then put it to one side for a couple of minutes. And we're going to trim off the excess right now. Probably even 5-10 minutes before we come back and hit it again with a little bit more solution and give it another push down with the brush. And just as it works its way, it'll slowly start to conform and shape itself around the tank. So you go, remove any excess carefully with your tweezers. And then grab your brush and give it another go over again. No pressure. We're just letting the solution go over the surface and just sit and soften the decals softly over time. So you can see we're starting to conform nicely now. So like I say, there's an angled line across the side of the tank. The cover. So we're following that with our brand new sharp blade. And we're just cutting it right on that line. And then the next piece we patch with, we'll go right up to that line and butt it right up to the piece we cut off. So once you've cut it off, grab your brush again and just push down the edges, make sure they're all fully down. Doesn't harm to give the whole tank another go over. And repeat over on the other side. Again, no pressure, just let the knife glide across. Nice brand new blade, follow the line. And the jobs are good. Take your time pulling off with the tweezers, put it out of the way, and again, push the edge down with your brush and leave that to sit. Dry up any excess fluids that are on there, don't let them sit. And if you want, you can always use your finger. At this kind of stage now, as the decals start to set, the finger's a good tool. It's very handy in pushing over edges, burnishing the edges down, get rid of any final creases. And yeah, don't be afraid to hit it with your finger. It sounds really dodgy saying that, but it's true. It's a useful aid in getting these decals down. Now, the very centre part of this, at the back, is a recessed area. We've let the solution sit in there for some time, and that's slowly set the decal in place, and then hitting the corners with a brush, we can get it in there. Absolutely perfect. Again, if you do make a mistake, you can always patch it. I've showed the patching before. It does work well, especially on this kind of pattern, because this is just a diamond style of pattern, not the cross weave. It's really easy to match up to not be noticeable. So like I say, on the side of this where we followed that line, we're now going to butt up this piece of carbon right to it. We're going to make sure the pattern's matched and then apply the decal solutions exactly like we did before and just let them sit and do their job and slowly set the decal in place. So again, we're going with the normal solution to start with. Then we'll go to the strong. No need for the extra strong on this. It doesn't require it at all. You could probably get away with just the normal as well, but I had to just put a quick go over with the extra strong just to make sure it's properly in and properly down as well. So just make sure you're lined up. Hit it with solution. Just be wary going over the brush sometimes can move the decal. Even if it's only a little bit, it can be more than enough to ruin your hard work. So just take your time, make sure everything's lined up, make sure you've got enough carbon fibre film to cover the edges. And as you can see, after a couple of hours, we're all in place. You can't even really see that joint at all. Because of the angle of the place where we cut it, the light doesn't catch, so you really can't see the joint at all. So our hoses have been sprayed up now. The same colour we used last time. The colour is escaping me, but I think it was the NATO Black I used. LP, I can't remember the LP colour now, but if you go back in the video to when we first sprayed those hoses, you can see the colour. We've got our Renaissance hose clamps. We're using our impromptu hobo style rolling machine, which is a U&P sander, and a micro brush. We're going to get the main shape of the hose first. We pop a little dab behind where the hose is visible. Pop the clamp on, let it sit for a minute, hit it with some CA glue kicker if you need to. Make sure it's in the correct spot. Then once you're happy and it's totally set, help it conform itself around and glue the other part in place. If it's not fully set, it will pop off, so make sure it is glued in place. If in doubt, pop a little bit more on. And when you're happy, put your thumb there, use your tweezers to bring it around. Hold it in place. The third hand is handy if you can get some CA kicker on there. If not, just hold it for a few seconds. It should grab it. If not, you can always apply the CA kicker to one side, and as you bring the other over, it'll grab it. But as you see with me now, it will grab it in the end. There you go, it's got it now. I'm going to get a little bit of CA kicker. Pop it in place. And there we go. Job done. So there's one of three on this one. There's no point doing the fourth one at the back, because it goes through the frame to the engine. It will actually hinder you putting the pipe through. So just do the three as shown. And they do make a massive difference and do look really good. So we've got some Tamiya black panel line wash now. We're going to give the rad a full wash, let it dry, and then wipe off the excess. Just leaving the wash inside the actual radiator recesses themselves. And this will give a good representation of the radiator itself. So make sure you give your Make sure you give your Tamiya panel line wash a really good shake. You don't want it too thick, you want it nice and thin. And just make sure you get a nice even coat all over. As you can see, the capillary action carries it around pretty quick. So you can just touch it around, then drag it. And just want a nice even coat all over. Don't worry if it pools too much, because we will be removing the excess. All we want is a nice even coat everywhere. There we go. That's now dried. Depends on the heat. It can take about an hour, 2 hours to dry. We've got our Winsor Newton mineral odorless mineral spirit, Sansoda or Sansador, on a cotton bud, and not any real pressure. We'll just run it over the top. And as you can see, it'll pick up the majority of the wash. We want to take most of it off. All we want to leave behind is a little bit of it inside the actual recessed parts themselves, and that'll give the radiator some depth. Don't press too hard, there's no need for any real pressure, but just work your way around so you get rid of that patchy look, and you're just left with a nice weathered look. And there you go. Probably take a little bit more off, which I'm going to do off camera. Once you're happy with it, leave it be, let it fully dry, and all's good. We've also applied a wash to the hose joints we painted as well, between the rubber and the grey. We did this on this and the radiator part itself, and around the joints at the top. Any recessed areas we're given a wash. And again, we're trying to remove as much as possible, just leaving behind a slight hint of a wash. That way it gives it a bit more depth. It makes it look a bit more interesting as well. Be careful of the odourless mineral spirits in ACA glue. It can unbond them. Debond, I think is probably a better word. And just take your time. Once you're happy, leave it be. And again, put it to one side to properly cure, to set properly. And that's it. So we've got some Deluxe Materials glue and glaze. This is my preferred kind of white glue. And we've got Rocket Rapid CA glue as well. It wasn't anything too thick for this. So I'm going to put a little bit of the Deluxe Materials glue and glaze on here. Now I like this to be left out for 5-10 minutes. It thickens up nicely, goes nice and tacky, and it's a very good little glue for gluing parts on that don't need any strength or any quick setting. As you can see, these exhausts fit together really well. There's no strength really required here. There's no speed needed, so we can just take our time with this. Squeeze the parts together lightly and then grab a cotton bud. I've got one of the Tamiya ones. And just remove any of the excess glue. It does dry clear, but it's always good to be as neat and tidy as you possibly can. And just remove any of that excess. Once you're happy with it, give it a final squeeze and just put it to one side to dry for a little bit. Once it's dried, a couple of dabs on the front where these go into the manifold. Again, we're not CA gluing it because at a later date these can always be taken back off. If, say, I'm not totally happy with the colours on the exhaust or any other problems like that, we can get them back out without damaging them. CA glue would be more of a permanent fix. This is removable with a bit of pressure. Like I say, just line it up. We've got a little bit too much glue, but it doesn't matter. Like I say, using the Tamiya pointed cotton buds, we can get the majority out, and it does dry clear. And certainly with enough bond to hold everything in where required. And there we go, get our Tamiya cotton bud in there. These cotton buds are indispensable in my opinion. You can get cheaper versions, but for me they're not as tightly wound or as pointy. They don't quite get in the areas you need them. We've got our carbon fibre work from earlier. Because this part's going to be on the exterior and it's holding the exhaust as well, we're going to use CA glue on this. 2 locating points, you've got a big long one and a little hole. Make sure it's lined up, and whatever you do not get CA glue on your finger and then touch that carbon work or you'll rip it right off. We've got the rear facing part of the exhaust from the engine. Again, a little dab of the glue and glaze. Remove the excess this time. There we go. We'll wipe that somewhere safe. That was not my trouser leg at all. Key to this part of the build is keep your fingers clean, keep glue off them, do not touch anything until you're totally sure you've got no glue. CA glue is your best friend and also your worst enemy at this point. You can ruin stuff so fast. So they're in there now. Once they're dry, we can grab some of our screws out of our screw pack. These are the 2.5mm screws supplied with the kit. We've got our Tamiya Pro screwdriver, which if you're going to assemble all these kits, it's a worthy buy. It fits a lot better than the standard one. And it feels a little bit better in hand as well. We screw on the carbon part, we put our exhaust back in. Grab another one of those screws. You see all the screws are still safely stored in that little tub with all the other parts we don't want to lose. Screwdriver is magnetic as well, so it's pretty handy for holding all the screws in place. And now we're going to screw the exhaust in place on its hanger. It's quite tricky, you can't really apply any pressure because it does bend. So try and get the screw started and then try and get a finger behind to hold the part as you screw it in. There's no real pressure, they don't need to be done up tight, but you want to get the screw fully home, so it does need a little bit of pressure from the rear. And there we go, as you can see we're all screwed in place. Well, we are screwed and glued. Now we need to cut a couple lengths of hose. Tamiya very handily gives you the lengths on the paper. Now what I'd always recommend is put about another 4mm, 5mm extra on, because I've often found these to be short. And then you can use the first piece to measure for the second. You can always cut them shorter later on. If you build a lot of these bikes, you'll end up with an abundance of this stuff spare. And there is aftermarket hose available too. A little dab of the glue and glaze again. We'll pop one of the hoses on. A little bit of a wiggle with our tweezers and it's on, no problem at all. We zoom in a little bit, you can see where we're gluing. There you go, you just see our little dab of glue. Straighten the hose up. Put it on top. Just give it a little gentle wiggle from side to side. And it'll slot on over. Add a little bit of glue, make sure it doesn't pull off. There's nothing worse than completely covering a part up and then halfway through stage finishing, you pull the hose out and you've got no idea where it's come from, or you can't really access where it's going. So a little bit of glue comes in handy. Look at the instructions, it's telling us to fold the hose over to one side. Then we're going to get our fuel tank assembly in there, and again, screw it in place, 2.5mm screws again, as called out by the instructions. Being gentle, we don't want to slip like that. Not while we've got any pressure on, we don't want to slip and scratch anything we've already taken time to paint or build. Same for the other side. And then at the back, we've got one for the exhaust as well. So that screws into the exhaust, and there we go. Looking the part now, looks really good. That exhaust hanger looks brilliant. The exhaust staining looks good to my eyes. I'm more than happy with that. Carbon work on the electronics cover looks good, and everything else is looking really good too. This is our heat staining from last time. We did show this in the last video, but because we've assembled it, this is where I nicked this bit of footage from. Very happy with those tones. It looks really good. Like I say, in forthcoming videos, we'll add a lot more detail on the next build. But for now, I'm happy with those stains. They look great. And yeah, nice and subtle without being too OTT. And like I say, hopefully something that's achievable by anyone. And you will have a go at doing it with those hot metals, because they're well worth trying out. They really are. Right, radiator now. We've got a pipe to put in one side. So again, we've got the glue and glaze out. It's gone really nice and tacky now. Pops into the back. And again, push it fully home. Grab a cotton bud, remove all the excess. Keep it nice and neat. There we are. And then when you're happy that it's in there, grab another piece of glue and attach it down the bottom. You could put this piece on before painting. I just like to do it because I can get behind it to get the washing. I just find it makes life a little bit easier. Again, remove the excess glue, and that's one piece ready to go. Once you're happy it's all home and clean, put it to one side for 5-10 minutes, just dry a little bit. So, because we put that pipe on the radiator first, just take your time putting it in. Put the side in first, then push the top piece on at the front, then at the bottom, just to make sure they're all in, they're all fully home and exactly where they need to be. As you can see, there we go, the hose clamp's looking great. We've got our other water hose as well, needs a little bit of glue in the two fixing holes. So I'm zoomed in a little bit too far again, so a little bit out of focus in places. So again, make sure you're going to glue all over your fingers. Look for the location marks that line up. Get the back piece in, then the front. Just make sure that back part's fully home. And again, removing the excess glue. Leave that to one side to dry. And that's it. And that's where we're at today. So that's a major milestone done. Loads of components put on today. It leaves us basically with the handlebars and all that assembly to do, brake lines, so on and so forth, and then our final bodywork, and we're all done. Well, happy how this has turned out. It's looking great. There we go. That's where we're at today. Very happy to get to that stage. There's a lot of work to get there. A lot of components needed working on before even one of them could be put in place. So very happy to get to that stage. And it's looking really, really good. Was it worth doing that carbon fibre work on the electronics cover? Probably not, but it showed you it being worked. It looked good. It looked good in the pictures, and that's it. So as long as you're happy doing what you're doing, it took me 2 hours to do. So as long as you're having fun, that's the main point of this hobby. So enjoy it, regardless of what people say. There we are. So we'll be back with part 14. Oh my God, palpitations when I say that. I said 15 to get it finished, so 14 will be all the handlebar components, including brake lines, all sorts of stuff that needs changing. And then 15 is going to be final assembly. So 15 will be the screen. We've got some more decals to go on. We've got the intakes to do on the side. We've got to polish up the bodywork. Yes, that's about it. So fingers crossed, 15 is still the goal. We shall see. If we have to go over 1, it's not the end of the world. But I said 15, and I kind of like to keep it there if we can. I want this at Telford. We're on good guns. We've got a week and a half or so to get it done. It was a week on Friday. It's Sunday today. So we're all good guns. It should be at Telford. So if you're there, come over and say hello. Come look at the bikes. The Minolta bike and the Repsol Honda will be there as well as a few of my builds. The catering's hopefully going, fingers crossed. And come over, see the bike, say hello, and give me some feedback on the build. What you liked, what you didn't like. Would you like to see more of something, less of something? I didn't do this build as a techniques guide because, as I explained to somebody the other day, the way you build these bikes isn't like a car. You don't do the body, then the running gear, then the interior, then the wheels. You don't do it in stages like that. You're doing a bit, going back, doing another bit, going back. So I couldn't see, right, we're doing the engine because the engine was in part 2 and like part 8. So they were way apart from each other. I couldn't do it. So it's one of those ones. Hopefully it still proves a good reference to the way I build bikes and you find it useful. And if it does, that's the important thing. So there we go. Thanks for watching today. We'll be back as soon as we can with part 14. My God, it scares me saying that number. That's a big number of these builds. Getting ever close to finishing it, which is brilliant. And I just can't wait to see it with its fairings on. I've not actually put the fairings on yet. I've got no idea what it's going to look like. And I'm really excited to see it. I really am. But we've got some fiddly bits coming up in part 14 and 15 to do. Where it's probably a majority of the aftermarket's going on. Small little bits that need doing. Yes. So bear with me on that. We'll be back as soon as we can with part 14. Thanks for watching today. As always, check out International Scale Model Facebook page and forum. umpretail.com, where you can find nearly everything I use in these videos now. We're adding more stuff all the time. Paul ISM Facebook page on my work is shared live the bench page for the Friday night live show. The Off Air Hangout group for the Off Air Hangouts. Make sure you sub to this channel. Give us a thumbs up, click the little bell notification, and leave a comment down below. I do reply to every single one. I'll catch you next time. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.